Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today's lesson will be on creating your first web page. This will be your first hands-on lesson, so feel free to pause it along the way and keep track of everything in your own text editor. I'm going to walk you through everything from opening up that text editor to setting up your first HTML document and then viewing it in your browser. If you have any questions or get stuck along the way, go ahead and hit that course discussions tab at the top and enter your questions in the questions and answers section. So let's jump right into it and create your first web page. So the very first thing we need to do is find a place on our computer where we can create a brand new folder where our web page is going to live. We're going to go ahead and create that now, and we're going to name it My First Web Page. And the way I've typed this out here is a pretty standard way of typing as a web developer. It's called camel case, where the very first word is lowercase, and then every word after, even though it's all technically smushed together, is capitalized to visually differentiate each word. Sometimes when you open a new Visual Studio Code window, they give you some extra options here on the left-hand side. Right now, we're just going to go ahead and minimize that. We're gonna select inside the My First Web Page section, and we're going to create a new file. And then we get to name that, and it's going to be index.html. And then we'll hit enter, and that'll create the document. You can think of index.html as being your home page for any website you create. Index.html will be what we call the root of the website. Now that we have our blank index.html page, we're going to go ahead and start filling it with what I call the template of any sort of web page. Basically, all the tags that are needed to make a web page function properly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a doc type tag, doc type HTML. And remember, that lets the browser know that we're using HTML5 syntax. Then we're going to hit enter. The next is going to be the opening HTML tag. And a lot of times your text editor will automatically create the closing tag as well, which is perfectly fine. Let it do that and just go ahead and hit enter to give it some space. The next tag we're going to create is the head tag. And that's going to create again, and we're going to just open that up as well. We're not going to put anything in the head tag right now, but we will fill that in a little later. And then we're going to go right below the head tag, and we're going to do the body tag. And this is where all the content for your website that you actually see on your website is going to reside. Now, it's important to note that after you've entered all of these tags, you're going to want to make sure you save the document. Right now, it's in a state where you can see this little circle up top. That means that the document is unsaved. So if you were to exit your text editor right now, you wouldn't have saved any of the work you just did. So go ahead and hit, on Windows, it's going to be Control S, and on Mac, it's going to be Command S, and that will save the document. Now I'm going to make this screen just a little bigger so that way we can see it a little bit better as we move on. The next thing we're going to do is go back up to the head tag, and we're going to create a title for your website. This title displays if you look at the very top of your browser inside of the tab, this title displays inside that tab. So we're just going to label it My First Web Page. And then we're going to hit save again. Now for this exercise, that's the only thing we're going to enter into the head tag. Other things can go in there, but for this assignment, that's really all you need. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down into the body and make sure, as you can see, it does a lot of this automatically inside Visual Studio Code, but make sure when you're creating new content within a tag that you're tabbed in one time from that tag, so that way you can visually see the difference on where your information is being placed. So moving into this body section, we're going to place our first piece of content, which is going to be an H1, our first heading tag. And we're just going to do the same thing we did with the title. We're just going to say My first web page, and then hit save. Just make it a habit to always hit save after you've done some work. Trust me, there's been more times than not where the window will just randomly close on me, or something will fail and it'll close on me, and all that work that I just done was unsaved and I'd have to redo it. So just get in the habit of saving frequently. The next and final piece of content we're going to add to this web page for this lesson is a paragraph tag right below the H1. And we're just going to fill it with something fun. I just created this little saying here for this lesson. This is my very first web page. I'm very excited to get started learning how to be an amazing web developer one day. This is the first step in that journey. You can write whatever you want in here. This is just something fun, as long as you use enough words and kind of fill up the space a little bit. So now let's make sure we save that information so that way we don't lose it. Remember, anything that you haven't saved yet isn't going to show up on your website at all. So make sure you hit that save button. Now I'm going to show you a couple different ways to open up the file in your web browser, so that way you can preview what it would look like if it was an actual website. So the first way is if we come over here on the left-hand side where the index.html file is, if we right click on that, with Visual Studio Code, they have a couple different options. They have an open with option, as well as an open with live server option. Uh, Either one will work. Open with, you just need to select a web browser to open with. But if we open with live server, that's going to automatically open up in a website. And there you go. There's the tab that it opened. It opened a brand new tab in a live website here. So if I make changes at all in my document and I save it and I click refresh here, you'll actually see those changes being made. So you can tell the My First Web Page, that was our H1 tag. It's the largest text on the screen and the most bold text on the screen. And that's by default. The browser decides to make it that bold and that size. And then down below it, we have our paragraph tag, where all the text that we entered for the paragraph shows up right below it in a smaller text that's less bold, just like you would see in a book. And then if you notice right here up top in the tab, we can see My First Web Page. That's that title tag that we entered in the head. Now the next way you can open this up is by actually going into your File Explorer, whether you're in Windows or Mac, and finding that file. So I'm going to go to my coding lessons folder and my first web page folder. And then you can see here's the index.html page. I can either double click on that right from here and it'll automatically open in a browser because it knows it's an HTML page and that's where you should view it. Or you can right click it and you should be able to open with, and you can choose Google Chrome. There's Safari in here. If you've got Microsoft Edge, that might be an option in here as well, but any web browser will work. So you can go ahead and click on that and it's going to open a brand new tab with that website displayed on the screen. So those are just a couple ways that you can open up the HTML file on your computer before you've posted it anywhere online, to get kind of a preview on what it would look like as an actual website. And that's everything for this lesson. We've gone through how to open your text editor, create a brand new folder for your website, create a brand new HTML file for your website, how to fill it in with the proper tags to get it set up, and then how to populate it with some content so that way you can see it on your web browser. So for our next lesson, we're going to go into CSS basics, which is how we can style our website and add some fun to it. See you over there.